This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, as always, Jeff Malinoff. With me is Mark Souza. Was there a Super Bowl yesterday?
There was a football game that was played, yes.
It wasn't Super.
That it was not. It was not.
Arguably the worst Super Bowl in NFL history. Only one total touchdown. We'll get on that in just a second. We're also going to be talking about Oakland Raiders and their new home for 2019 that might be. It hasn't been official yet, but it's possibly they'll playing in San Francisco. Also, some mutiny in Los Angeles as the Lakers had a little dispute with their head coach. We'll talk about that as well later. And anything else we need to discuss, we will. But obviously, first things first, Super Bowl 53 was yesterday. It's basically a holiday for most people. For me and you, probably.
But unfortunately, we have to be here, so, you know.
Yeah, a lot of people probably calling sick, which is understandable because a lot of people probably were drinking rather than watching the game.
It is the most called-in sick day of the year, that's for sure.
But this was like the opposite of like why? Because some people are just drinking because they're bored rather than entertained.
Yeah, 2 records were set yesterday.
Yes.
And that kind of signifies the type of game it was. One record was the lowest amount of points in a Super Bowl.
And the other one was the punt.
The longest punt.
65 yards. By 1 yard, too. The record was a 64-yard punt. Now it's 65.
Tony Romo was very excited about that record, by the way.
Tony Romo was actually pretty entertaining this game. Do you remember when when Gronkowski was doing the first kick and they were saying no one's ever missed a kick in the new stadium? And he goes, "Did you just jinx him?" And then Jim Nantz goes, "No, I don't think so." And then he misses it by he hooks it and then slices it, and then Tony just starts laughing. And then he's like, and then they were saying some other stat, and then Tony goes like, "This is like third quarter." He goes, "Are you gonna jinx him again?" Poor Jim Nantz, but Tony Romo, he was just as entertaining as everyone hoped he would be. I had a lot of fun listening to him. Yeah, I think he's fantastic, and it was just he really helped the game a little more entertaining to me personally, but otherwise he couldn't do much about the play on the field, as this game was really rough. Only one total touchdown, like I said, the Sony Michel run, which was in the fourth quarter or the third. I don't even remember. I think it was third.
What was that?
The Sony Michel run for the touchdown. Which quarter was that, third or fourth?
Third quarter.
That late third quarter. And my gosh, that was the only touchdown. No passing touchdowns. That's the first time in Super Bowl history that's ever happened. And Jared Goff and even Tom Brady didn't play that well either. But Julian Edelman kind of helped Tom Brady, and Jared Goff kind of showed a lot of his weaknesses in this game. I think it's a serious concern. Can they even win a Super Bowl with Goff now if they keep him?
Yeah, I mean, there's
serious questions.
He showed a young quarterback that wasn't ready to win this game. But, I mean, it's easy to sit here and talk about him, but I thought Tom Brady was just as bad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I thought he was – if you didn't know, you would have thought both quarterbacks were young, inexperienced players.
Yeah. Well, for Brady, he had Edelman really bailing him out with a couple of great plays by him. He had over 10 receptions and over 140 yards.
10 for 141.
Yeah, 140 receiving, which gave him rightfully the MVP, which I thought it was either him or Sony Michel. They were the only two I can think of that might get MVP if this game ended, because Sony Michel was the only one that actually ran for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I almost got my prediction right on the Fantasy Football Podcast. We were talking about our surprise MVP candidates, and I said Sony Michel. So I was almost right.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you say again? I forgot.
Robert Woods.
Yes, and he had some touches in that game, but This was not an offensive game
Ultimately,
by any
no
means.
Ram was going to win MVP when you score 3 points and lose. So
Yeah, if it was like 6-3, even if the Rams like won 6-3 and the game ended like that, I would have to give the MVP to the punter. I'm not even kidding. Like, who else you could give it to? This was a punting. This is like a pass, punt, run contest, but mainly emphasis on punting.
It was exactly that. It was a boring game. Not a lot was in it. And the one thing that people are saying, which I don't really agree about, is people are saying that this was a awesome game if you're a fan of defensive football. But for me, this game was much more, and I'm not taking anything away from the defenses, who did play really well, but it was much more about the lack of offensive execution than great defensive plays.
There were some good defensive efforts, no doubt about it, but it was mainly just bad offensive plays rather than great defensive efforts.
I saw Goff miss a lot of receivers. I saw him not trust his eyes. I saw him late. I saw him just completely not look at some receivers who were open. I saw Brady with some terrible throws in this game. He was missing open receivers. He was not good at all. I thought that was one of the worst Tom Brady games I've ever seen him play, to be honest with you. He was fortunate, though, that the other quarterback played even worse.
Yeah, he got very lucky in that fact. And it was just bad from top to bottom. There wasn't anything going for it. There was 2 interceptions, one at the beginning of the game, the first pass play of the play of the game for Tom Brady, which showed signs of things to come, huh?
Yeah, and that was a terrible throw by him. He threw it right into coverage.
That was not a Tom Brady-esque throw, was it? It was not. It was not a Tom Brady-like throw at all. And that obviously, I saw as soon as that happened, I thought, wow, that was actually kind of impressive. Like, can they take over this? Can they make this into an advantage for the Rams? And they never did anything with it.
Yeah, in addition to Jared Goff's 19 incompletions, he was sacked 4 times, which I believe at least 2 were on him. He just didn't get rid of the football.
He holds on to the ball way too long. That is a serious. My dad was saying, like, I was watching with my pops, and my dad was like going like, man, this game, like, I've always watched him play, and I think he's overrated because of the fact he holds on the ball way too long, and he's very he just doesn't know when to throw the ball. And I was like, yeah, I've seen that a couple times, but it was no more apparent than this game right here, how long he holds on to that football.
And also, not only did he have the 19 incompletions and he was sacked 4 times, did you see when he committed that false start in the 4th quarter?
Where he thought it was on 1, but it was really on 2, and
that's when you know that the quarterback is shook. When he's the one committing a false start, he's the one that knows the snap count, or at least is the one telling everybody what it is. So,
do you think it was because of Drake wearing that Rams jacket before the game, couple days before the game? Did you see that though?
I did see that. I also saw the NFL Network that aired the Super Bowl winning commercial for the Patriots the day before the Super Bowl. I saw that as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. So it kind of evened out, huh?
Well, I mean, with those two things, right? You would think that the Patriots were going to win, and anybody who bet on the Rams was dumb, right?
Saying a team's going to win before the win happens is usually bad luck for them, personally. So I would give that an advantage to the Rams more than the other part.
Yep.
Because usually it's just like you don't want to jinx it type S. So that's how I imagined it. Yeah. But overall, this game sucked. I don't think there's any other way of explaining it. We'll get in more detail in the next segment, but I just want to say real quick, just continue more on this, that the right MVP was Julian Edelman. And with this win for Tom Brady, is there an argument against him being the greatest of all time?
I don't know. I mean,
it's hard.
I think people are going to feel how they want to feel about Tom Brady, but I find it hard to believe that this game would make you feel like he's – I don't know. I don't know how this game would actually bolster your opinion that he's the best ever if you think he is, because he didn't play well. He played a terrible football game.
Yeah,
he really did, you know.
But the success is –
his team won, okay, but it's a team game, you know. But if they would have lost the game, he would have been the player that everybody would have blamed. Or, he would have been the guy, and the media would have just killed him today. He would have been the guy like, wow, Brady didn't show up for the Super Bowl. What's going on? Maybe he's done, something like that. So, I don't know. People are going to already feel that he's the best ever, and they have an argument to make. But yesterday, I don't know, changed anything.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just did you also see the Saints boycotting the Super Bowl?
I did not.
Well, the whole New Orleans had like a little party at what is it called, Bourbon Street, and they were just having like a party there, not watching the Super Bowl. They had a concert or something, and I was just like, and apparently there were some. I'm not sure if this is actually true, but there were some Saints fans that went to the Super Bowl in protest, and I'm just like, shut up, you know what I mean? It's time to let it go. It's been 2 weeks. I understand you're still angry, but do it. Just stop it.
Uh-huh.
That's all I have to say about it. Just please stop.
Yeah, so yesterday the Patriots ran one play in the red zone.
Isn't that incredible?
That was the touchdown run.
Yeah. And after that catch by Gronk, that was probably the most exciting catch and exciting play of the day. The Gronk 27-yard catch that was 1 yard away.
The Rams had no red zone plays. There was one red zone snap in the entire Super Bowl.
Yeah. And that is just unheard, especially for two of the top offensive teams in the league. That's insane.
I mean, even if we had the two worst offenses in the league, we would have expected a lot more offense than that,
Yeah, but still, it's based off of like rankings and all this stuff. It's really, really insane.
Yeah, I saw some headlines about the Rams, the greatest no-show on turf. I saw that.
I dig that. I dig that.
Sean McVay was outcoached for sure, in my opinion. I think anytime you give Belichick 2 weeks to prepare for a team, I feel like you're at such a disadvantage.
Yeah, but it just was disappointing throughout the entire game. Like I expected something to pick up, like just a fourth quarter of coming, let's go quickly, touchdowns, but nothing happened.
And that interception Goff threw with 4.5.
That was one of the
left.
worst interceptions I've ever seen. That was a dumb throw.
He threw a jump ball to the shortest receiver on the field.
And he didn't even throw it that far. He's got a cannon, and he underthrew him, basically. Like, if you're going to do that, throw it into the end zone, not 2 yards before it. And Gilmore saw it a mile away. Woods wasn't even looking.
Yeah. It was Cooks, but still.
Or Cooks, yeah.
Still, he should have thrown it away or thrown it to the corner of the end zone.
He immediately threw it. Like, there was no question he was going to go for this whatever he was going for. But he just did not throw it with enough power. And he had some bombs he threw in this game. And he could show his power, no doubt about
Brandon
it. But
Cooks on that wide open touchdown earlier in the game too, in the third quarter, where he's standing alone in the middle of the end zone, and Goff waits forever, throws, and it gets knocked away at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very frustrating as well. So you blame Goff on that one?
I mean, the guy's wide open. Even Goff said after the game that he wasn't expecting Cooks to be that wide open.
But you got to look.
He was.
He doesn't. He holds on the ball for so long. Like it's frustrating. It was honestly very frustrating. Like there was a lot of times where he just
might be a tough game for the Rams to recover from. To be honest with you,
I completely agree. This is a serious issue. No doubt about it.
In the NFL, you could have a good thing going and all of a sudden a loss,
just like that. Yeah.
Something happens. Super Bowl hangover. That's what usually happens when a team loses the Super Bowl. It's hard for them to come back the next year. They usually don't make the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
we saw it. We've seen it happen. The Eagles did make the playoffs this year, but it was tough for them. But we have seen for sure in years past, the losing team has a tough time making it back, and I just wonder if the Rams might be the next Super Bowl hangover team, right? Because that was a loss that I think really humbled them in terms of their young quarterback looked very vulnerable. He's not been playing well the last couple months of the season. Plus the playoffs, very mediocre to below average. And then he has a terrible, one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a Super Bowl by a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And, we'll see what the Rams do. They're facing a lot of changes. You know, a guy like Ndamukong Suh will not be back. He was on a 1-year contract worth a lot of money.
There's multiple guys gone.
They do have some question marks, as does every other team. But the difference is their question marks are on top of poor performance in a Super Bowl, which ultimately usually leads to a bad season the next year. So we'll see.
Are you concerned if you're like Rams management that you can't be back next season, or do you see them coming back next season? As in like a potential contender.
I think if you're Rams management, you have the faith that you'll be back next year because you have a young team. I mean, you have, Goff is still young. Like he should get better, and you had Gurley, who was great all season until the very end, which I'm assuming he's injured.
He says he's not. He was after the game. He wasn't playing injured.
Yeah,
but that is very hard to believe.
That. It's been the company line, I think, for the last couple weeks here, but I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either.
You got Cooks and Woods, who will both be back. Cooper Kupp should be back from his surgery. So, I mean, you're going to have Aaron Donald. There are players on that defense that should be back, but they will have to kind of pick up some of the pieces here because this is a Super Bowl that might have some lasting effects.
Oh, I believe so too. This is a tough loss, and there's that Super Bowl hangover curse type of thing. You know what I mean? And this might be one of the baddest hangovers just because of the fact of how they lost and how they played, because that's going to haunt them. That's haunting McVay. And you heard about what the offensive tackle Whitmore said after the game, right?
Whitworth, what did he say?
He said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. We're all going to die." At one point, I'm like, that is the most depressing.
He's putting things in perspective, right?
It was still incredibly depressing. I got all depressed afterwards. I'm like, oh, well, here's his actual quote. At the end of the day, we're all going to die. Wow, that's just way to bum everyone out. I understand he's depressed, but that was just a whole other can of worms that I was just really sad about. I'm like, I felt bad for the guy, but I was just like, oh, it's like the worst way to look at it. Like, you played in the Super Bowl. It's an amazing feeling, of course. You didn't play to your best, of course, but be confident you can come back. Don't say we're all going to die. It's just harsh.
Yeah. It is what it is. I'm sure the Rams, when you lose a game like that, a lot of times it's the only time you'll ever get to that game or the first time. So,
Oh, I understand. It's rough.
Yeah, we'll see how they bounce back. I looked at Sean McVay, and I thought he looked a little bit flustered on the sideline last night. I thought he looked like it was his first big game.
It didn't seem like he was ready.
And he admitted that he was out-coached last night, and it seemed that way. But to the Rams' credit, I mean, their defense played really well. We talked about Brady having a tough game, having a really bad game, but they did do their part too. I thought they covered some receivers well in certain times. Other than Edelman getting free for a couple big plays, I thought their defenders were really good for the most part. They got to Brady a couple times. Aaron Donald and Suh, I thought, were disruptive. But yeah, man, ultimately it's just not enough. And the Patriots are celebrating. Can you imagine? Do you know that Brady has more Super Bowl wins? Like no team in NFL history has more Super Bowl wins than Tom Brady as an individual.
Yeah,
that's actually insane to think about. Right?
Charles Haley's the only one that has 5 Super Bowls that was tied with him.
Yeah.
Now he's the one with 6. Brings the Patriots tying with the Steelers to 6.
Yeah.
And it's arguably like this is there's never been a dynasty that's lasted for almost 2 decades now and still been contenders every single year. It's truly remarkable.
Yeah. What do you say we take a break, come back, and talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl?
Sure, we can do that, and we'll be right back. But first, I almost forgot. We should talk about investing because maybe you should invest in some other things other than the Super Bowl coming up, because of how bad it was. Anyways, When investing and planning for your retirement, it's always best to get advice from the experts. Best-selling author Harry Dent, America's #1 economist, says the dark window is open. There's an opportunity to rapidly boost your retirement savings for the greatest stock market crash in American history. But the dark window won't be open for long. You can make up to 10 times the annual average stock market gain in just a few short months. Find out more by going to www.harrydentforecast.com. There is a very short time to take advantage of this dark window. So once again, take advantage. Go to www.harrydentforecast.com to learn more.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. You know, we should talk a little bit about the halftime show. I was only into it because I heard SpongeBob was in it. What about you?
I thought it was just a, normal show. I wasn't blown away by it. I thought they could have done a lot more. But ultimately, when you book a band like Maroon 5, you're just going to get that type of performance. Not anything against them, but you're not going to get like a Michael Jackson type performance. You're just going to get a Maroon 5 concert, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not going to be the most exciting thing ever. I was a little disappointed that Travis Scott and Big Boy from Outkast seemed to have very small parts.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping they'd have a little bit more of a role in the halftime show, but yeah, it wasn't terribly exciting, and it might have been more exciting than the game itself, but that was just because, that game wasn't exciting. So
yeah, I'm not going to lie, I only watched the SpongeBob part, and then I went and go play Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Until the end of the halftime show, because I was like, I'm just not interested in it at all. But the game, I was still not interested at all, actually.
Yeah.
I'll just start quarter to quarter base. In first quarter, that first pass play, Brady throws that pick, but they started off that first drive fairly well with a lot of good running. That's where this is where I was nicely surprised. But the running game by the Patriots was working pretty well.
Uh-huh.
Michelle was having a pretty good game, all things considered, how bad it was overall. I think, at least. I don't know what you thought about how he did, but I thought Michelle did great for his first time in a Super Bowl game.
I mean, I think he had 2 runs that I remember. What did he finish with?
I will actually look. That's a good question.
He had the first run of the game, which was a good run. But
he had a couple breakout runs. I think he went over 20 yards a couple times. I think a couple. Maybe that's...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was probably more notable because of the
Michelle
game.
had 94 rushing yards and touchdown. So that's...
Yeah.
Honestly, in all things considered, that's good in this type of game because there was a lot of not that.
Right.
But yes, Edelman did deserve the MVP award, 10 receptions, 141 like we said. Gronk also had a pretty good game, all things considered. He had 87 yards on 6 receptions. That, of course, that big catch that led into the 1 to 2 yard line and into the end zone for Sony Michel, which helped a lot. But over the course of this game, you look at both Brady and Goff threw less than 300 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick each. So this was just bad all around when you come to
both quarterbacks
offensively.
could have had more picks too.
Oh, there were a lot of missed opportunities, absolutely. But it was just, and then you saw how then once the interception happened, they went into the first drive for the Rams. They did nothing, and that was just a sign of things to come. I think once they did nothing with the ball after that interception, it was just downhill from there.
Yeah. So the Patriots are in a lot of zone coverage against the Rams, and the Patriots, they had ran man coverage 62% of pass plays throughout the season, which was higher than any team in the NFL. So the Patriots had run man-to-man coverage higher than any team in the NFL. But Jared Goff, his numbers against zone defenses are quite a bit worse than they are against man-to-man. And the Patriots ran 90% zone coverage yesterday.
That's just smart game planning. You just got to give him credit on that one.
Yeah, it seemed like Goff did not read anything well. So if you run a zone, it took him too long to make decisions, I believe, especially the missed touchdown to Brandon Cooks where he's wide open.
I could have flown to Atlanta, went onto the field, got the ball, and made a quicker decision than he did.
Yeah, there's other times too. But it seemed like the zone defense really, really halted his processing time and ultimately led him to just make terrible plays, bad throws, missed opportunities. Just an awful game by Jared Goff.
There was also that gruesome injury on Patrick Chung with his wrist, or easily a broken forearm, roughly around there, I'm assuming. Something's broken, obviously. But he got the shoulder of C.J. Anderson and the helmet. I forget who the defender was at the time, but it was just two behemoths just colliding with his arm at the same. It was just rocking a hard place. It was pretty gruesome, to be honest with you. So obviously he didn't return to the game, but that was one of the moments I remember mostly from that game too. Is that injury?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. They showed on the replay.
Yeah, it's slow motion of it, bones just moving. You can just see it. Ugh. But other than that moment, that bad moment for Patrick Chung, I think that this was just like, I can't get over how ugly this game was. Like we were talking how like in the NFC and AFC championship games, these are the four best offenses in the league, 1, 2, 3, and 4, ranked respectively. And then we see two of them face each other in the Super Bowl, and there's nothing.
It was definitely a major letdown too because of how good the AFC and NFC championship games were. I mean, the drama, the excitement, especially the AFC championship with all the points that were scored in the second half. And then earlier this year, we saw the Chiefs and the Rams
just have probably the game of the year.
But one of the games best ever, right? I mean,
no, it was very
the Chiefs Rams 54-51 thriller.
Can't really get much better than that, can you?
It's gonna be remembered as one of the best Super Bowls ever. I wanted to say though,
not best Super Bowls. What could have been
regular season games ever. I wanted to say though, if the Patriots weren't involved in this Super Bowl, this would probably be the least memorable game of all time.
Oh, if this wasn't a sixth championship for the Patriots, no one would care.
Like if it was the Chiefs versus the Rams, and it was
it would be known as the most underwhelming Super Bowl ever.
Yeah,
like that would make it even worse because of the fact how well they played in the regular season before that game. If they did this 13-3 Chiefs and Rams, then this game would be remembered as just the most disappointing game in NFL history.
Would you say that this game was worse than the Seahawks destroying the Broncos a few years ago?
Yes, because points were actually scored in that game.
But that game was also over like in 5 minutes into the game.
True, but there was still like movement on the offensive side for one team. This was just stalemate throughout the entire game, and just nothing happened. Like at least some things happened. A safety happened, an interception return for a touchdown happened, like stuff like that. Like excitement. There was some exciting plays.
Right.
There was no exciting plays in this game.
So you would value exciting plays over competition?
Well,
would
I mean,
you say? I'm just asking. I don't know the.
I don't really have an answer for that either. But I think it's just based off what's competitive. A non-scoring game where nothing happens. Then no, I would rather
the game wasn't good last night, but it was competitive at least in the fact that the Rams were always like one play away, like one play out from winning the game or being in the lead, except for at the very, very end.
But it just felt like that wasn't going to happen, though. That's why I was really disappointed, because the game was going so at a slow pace that I didn't honestly think an exciting play was going to actually happen.
What about when they threw the pick in the red zone there at the end. We talked about it. Did you think on that drive the Rams were going to score because they actually started moving the ball really well?
They look good. They look like Sean McVay had something going for them, and then Goff just gave it to Stephon Gilmore, and I was like, well, there goes the most excitement of the game so far. Very disappointed how that turned out.
Do you expect Goff to bounce back from this game and have a good season next year?
I don't think so. I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is going to be in his head, and I honestly thought that he was in over his head in this game in general, but how he played and how disappointed he performed in the biggest game of the year, I think it's definitely going to the Super Bowl hangover is going to affect him more than anybody else.
If the Saints were playing yesterday, do they win the game?
Probably.
It is fun to think about. Not so much fun for Saints
Yeah,
fans.
but you can agree that they probably have that game won, huh?
I think if the Saints would have played yesterday, they would have won easily, for sure. Because Drew Brees is not Jared Goff, and I think
Drew Brees for Tom Brady would have been an excellent game.
I think the Saints would have scored points. I
Yes.
don't know if they would have given up as little points as the Rams did, but they would have scored a lot more. They would have scored.
Their defense is no slouch either. They're a good running defense,
Yeah.
and they would have stopped Michelle in theory. And so maybe the Patriots don't even score 13. They probably don't. Yeah, you don't know. That's the big what if. If we had alternate universes and we can go see that game, I would.
We should have saw the Chiefs play the Saints in a third-place game. What do you think?
They wouldn't even want to play that game, though, in theory. But I would agree. I would love to see that. But we can only watch it in Madden now.
Did you see the NFL 100 commercial
I missed it.
with all the players?
Oh, wait, I did see that. Yes, I did. That was before the halftime
with
show, right?
Marshawn Lynch starting it off. Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Even the commercials were underwhelming. I thought the commercials were trash too. I'm not even gonna lie.
The commercials were okay. Nothing insane.
Like I know there was a couple good ones, and I remember seeing them last night. But even off the top of my head right now, and maybe it's the cold medicine that I took last night, I can't remember too many great commercials. There was a couple funny ones.
I did love Brady and his rings though during that.
where he handed them to Baker.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. There was a couple commercials where they just had a cute dog, and everybody's like, "Oh, cute dog."
Yeah, I thought I don't know. There was a lot of entertaining, and I always think Brady is an entertaining guy. So I thought it was pretty good. And Baker Mayfield is just an entertaining guy also. The Marshawn Lynch. There was a lot of funny stuff to it for sure.
It was pretty good. I think that Adam Levine taking off his shirt was in poor taste, because that's a little too risque for me. All right.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, I thought we weren't supposed to do that, NFL. I thought, remember when Nipplegate happened a couple years ago or a while ago, Janet Jackson?
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, now we got double Nipplegate.
Okay, well,
with Adam Levine. It's messed up, man.
I guess there's also
kind of sexist.
a woman's breast versus a man's chest. That's
kind of sexist,
Yeah, but he's not
It's
even
that white male privilege. We
Oh my, that's really okay. We're gonna just completely skip over what he just said.
Yeah, if you're a white man, you can take off your shirt.
That's what. What does that even mean?
Yeah, you know what it means.
We're done with this conversation.
Privilege, Jeff.
We're not getting in on this conversation. This is not.
But I wouldn't expect you to understand.
Oh well, if I had my say, I'm not going to say what I want to say because I feel like this is not the appropriate time to discuss this. So I'm just going to stop here and move on. But regardless, I am excited for the 100th anniversary of the NFL season because you remember their 75th anniversary thing where they had all the throwback jerseys.
I do remember that. That was a good year for you, huh?
But I wasn't born. I wish I was. Don't get me wrong, but
I was there.
I
remember those teams wear those throwbacks.
There were some gorgeous looking throwbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And what I'm excited about is what they're going to come up with this year. Are they just going to go with like the first jerseys for each team or something like that? Because there's a lot to think about.
Uh-huh.
I hope they do something, right? They're going to do something, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'll expect something. Maybe throwbacks. We'll see. But Anyways, we're going to go to a break. Before we do that, I want to tell you about investing and planning for your retirement. It's always best to get advice from the experts. Best-selling author Harry Dent, America's #1 economist, says, "The dark window is open. There's an opportunity to rapidly boost your retirement savings before the greatest stock market crash in American history. But this dark window won't be open for long. You can make 10 times the annual average stock market gain in just a few short months." According to the research of renowned Harvard economist Harry Dent, though, this window could slam shut later this year, and nobody on Wall Street is expecting it. This dark window is something bigger by far than anything he's predicted up to this point, and you can make 10 times the annual average stock market gain. Find out more by going to www.harrydentforecast.com. There's a very short time to take advantage of this dark window, so go to www.harrydentforecast.com to learn more.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We're done with the Super Bowl talk. Now let's move on to other news that actually happened after the Super Bowl. I got the news after the Super Bowl, but the Raiders look like they'll be moving to Oracle Park for the 2019 season. It's not official yet, but reports are saying they're in the midst of a deal. And
where is Oracle Park?
In San Francisco. That's AT&T Park for those who
the San
are
Francisco
unaware.
Giants Stadium.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And for that, I have to ask in the sense of they're going back. They're going to play again at a, how do you say?
Baseball field?
Yeah, they're playing at a baseball field again. Is this like, are they going to try to attract San Francisco 49er fans,
They're playing
in theory?
at a smaller baseball field than the one that they play on now, which is kind of crazy to think about. No, I don't think they're trying to attract 49ers. This team's moving to Vegas, so...
Yeah.
Also, it needs to be known that the Raiders can't just decide they're going to play in San Francisco. The 49ers would have to actually allow this to happen, and no word yet that they have actually let this go. So the Raiders can say that they're going to play somewhere. They can have an agreement with Oracle, with the San Francisco Giants, but until the 49ers waive their territorial rights, this can't go through.
Yeah, that's what I was honestly thinking, like, are the Niners even going to allow this? But if they're even talking, I'm this is only assuming, this is only an assumption, but maybe they already talked to the Niners, like, can we even talk to Oracle Park? Can we talk to the Giants about this? They might not have, but I think maybe they at least discussed it with or called the 49ers a little bit, just get some info about this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to say
why
that
go
that
through
happened.
why go through all the trouble if you're not gonna even know you're gonna get approved?
I would actually be surprised if Mark Davis reached out to the 49ers and Jed York I at this moment in time. I don't know. I could be wrong. I also don't think the NFL will let this happen. I think the NFL will make the Raiders play in Santa Clara. I think they will.
At Levi's?
Yeah, I think they'll make them play in a stadium that's suited for football, that holds more people. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it would be interesting for the San Francisco 49ers to play in Santa Clara and for the Oakland Raiders to play in San Francisco. That would be interesting.
Yes, it would be actually very interesting. And, of course, the NFL and San Francisco 49ers have not approved of this as of yet, as to our knowledge. And so we will see how things happen. they already have ruled out the UNLV football stadium, so it's not going to be in Las Vegas as yet. But it seems to me that, like, right now it seems like Oracle Park is their obvious choice, but I don't think it's going to go down, like you said. So now the question is, if it's, okay, let's rule out all San Francisco 49er areas, like San Francisco and Santa Clara. Where do they end up?
Oh, well, in that case, I'm not sure. I would probably say L.A.
Because I'm assuming if they disapprove that, would they also just disapprove sharing their stadium?
I believe the Raiders will be playing in the Bay Area next year.
Okay.
Even if the 49ers say they don't want them in Levi Stadium, remember, the league helped the 49ers with the start of building that stadium that they're currently in. So I think the owners would push for that to happen and have the Raiders play in Santa Clara for 1 year. There might be a little resistance from the 49ers, but at the end of the day, I don't think they'll be able to stop it from happening. And yeah, everybody will move on. But I don't see the Raiders playing anywhere else. I think they'll play in the Bay Area, whether it's at Oakland, whether it's at Oracle Park, or at Levi's. I think one of those three spots will host the Raiders next season.
Yeah. And honestly, do you consider this as like a big factor in like how the team will even, like, they're still going to tanking most likely for the upcoming what's the word? Since they're probably tanking just for the Las Vegas teams, do you expect like still low seating attendance, or do you expect a lot of attendance still from Raider fans still loyal to the team? Do you see that happening?
I mean, it really depends where they play.
I think there's also the diehard Raider fans that's always going to be loyal to them. They're going to go anywhere that the Raiders go, in theory. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like they're, like you said, they're playing the Bay Area, but just a matter of where. And who knows? This is all speculation, of course. No deal has been made yet. But overall, do we see the Raiders even being in a playoff game next season? Just out of your opinion?
My guess is no, but anything could happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots could win a 7th Super Bowl. They're going to win a 7th Super Bowl, aren't they?
The NFL is the one sport where a turnaround can be really quick, really easy.
Oh, there have been tons of teams that go like 13 or 3-13 or like some of that nature, and then go 13-3 and win the division. You know, there's a lot of times that happens. Like, yeah, any team can, like, who's the worst team in the NFL? The Cardinals. In theory, the Cardinals can be 14-2 next season.
Absolutely.
That's not insane to say.
A lot of times it just takes a change of coaching. You get a couple key players in the draft, because we know that in football, every team has a few studs on the field. Like, every team has a few extremely talented players, where I don't think you could say the same in other sports. But the NFL, the parity is there when it comes to disbursement of talent. So it only takes one or two to put you over the top, maybe a new coach with a new attitude, new mindset, to really make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're right. It's just mindset, and and what happens in the off season is like, we don't know. But obviously that's one of the most crucial times to have a team turn around, though, is to get them ready to a turnaround, is the off season. Comes and goes. But now, since the Super Bowl is over, we are officially in the off season. And this is just, as my opinion, I say this, it's just an exciting time as a regular season.
Yep, and that's one of the biggest reasons why the NFL is so popular, right? Mm-hmm. Because even the offseason is must-see TV for the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the draft. It's a 3-day television event. A 3-day television event, the NFL draft. What other sport could even come close to saying that?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you.
It's just it's the one weekend where NFL fans are glued to their TV, waiting to see who their team picks, hoping that they pick the next Tom Brady. in the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, things like that. So it's just it's exciting. Plus, free agency. Can't forget about that. Where will Le'Veon Bell play?
That is probably the biggest question of the offseason, arguably.
Will Antonio Brown be traded?
So basically the Steelers are the ones that are...
Steelers are going to be must-see TV this year, for sure.
Yeah, and all for the wrong reasons. So that's just how that's going to go down. But do you see a scenario in where the Steelers lose both Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell?
What's that?
Do you see that?
Do I see them having both of them?
No, losing both of them when it comes down to the offseason.
Yeah, I'd say there's 50-50 chance they lose both. I'd say 25% chance they lose neither.
Okay.
25% chance they lose one, maybe.
Okay, so you see it almost like, so you're giving it a 75% chance of losing all of them? Or just at least one?
50% chance they lose both.
Okay. I see. Oh, that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
Which, that's not good. Okay, let's see. Okay, scenario. Steelers lose both of them. Are they in the playoffs? Or are they in a rebuild period?
I don't know. I would need to see who they got to replace them.
Well,
but you got to
think
think.
they're going to be in dire straits.
You got to think, man. They have a pretty good running back already, and they have a pretty good wide receiver without Brown, too. So I don't think they'd be. I think they'd still be a playoff team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously other things go into it, but yeah, Juju, Connor, Ben, they got some good defensive players. It just depends on their draft free agency, but I think they could do it.
Yeah. And of course the Steelers are a formidable franchise.
When's the last time the Steelers went 2 years in a row without making the playoffs? I don't even remember if that's ever happened.
Probably in the 70s. Or I'm not the 70s, excuse me, the 60s.
Uh-huh.
Just in theory. Maybe the 90s. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
They're just so familiar with the playoffs that not seeing them in the playoffs is shocking.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the offseason in the NFL. I'm sure in the next coming days we'll hear stuff about the Patriots Gronk. He said he'll be deciding his future in the next couple weeks.
Yep. And
I expect him to retire, to be honest.
Do too. It's like he's just banged up, man, I think it's just time, It's just one of those things where it's your body's choice, not your mind's choice, if that makes sense.
I think we're going to hear that Todd Gurley was injured. I would be not surprised at all.
They won't just keep going until the end of time saying he wasn't injured.
Yeah, I think we'll hear that they hid that,
Mm-hmm.
Sean McVay said leading up this week that he was going to be heavily involved in the Super Bowl game plan. He was not. He was not heavily involved at all.
Virtually not there. Like, he had one breakout run for 15 yards roughly.
Yeah.
And that's being generous.
There is some interesting NBA news that happened this weekend.
Yeah, probably the weirdest thing I've heard in a long time, but there was a mutiny going on in LA, it feels like almost a fight between multiple players, right? Not just Beasley.
Michael Beasley and JaVale McGee apparently were the two players
having to be. Well, I know Beasley had to be restrained physically from Walton, their head coach. And was there more info or reasons about this? I don't recall anything leading to this, any sign of this happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Frustrations spilt over. Maybe Beasley's really frustrated because he's hardly played this year. He doesn't get any time off the bench. I mean, he's kind of buried in the depth chart, but maybe that's what happened. But
don't Latrell Sprewell this. Don't attack your coach.
It is weird though because they lost to the Warriors. They lost to the Warriors with no LeBron, so it wasn't a bad loss at all. But yet, we see that they let their emotions get the better of them. it leads to something. We don't know about exactly what happened because it's all hearsay. But Shams Charania from ESPN, he's the one who reported it, and he's as pretty reliable in the industry as anybody. So I'm not sure, but it was a tense post-game scene in the Los Angeles locker room after their loss to the Warriors in Oracle Arena on Saturday night. So 115-101 loss to the Warriors.
And LeBron did not play, which I was expecting him not to play regardless.
Right.
So that was one of the things that happened. And with this whole, like, debacle, basically, what it is, like you were talking about this before we went on air, that Latrell Sprewell is, like, giving him tips.
Uh-huh.
For those that don't remember or were too young to remember or whatever, Latrell Sprewell, when the Warriors were bad in the 90s, I know they were bad, right? Can't believe it. He choked his own coach during practice.
Yes.
Which,
the craziest thing about the Latrell Sprewell situation is that he choked his coach, left, and then came back and choked him again.
Yeah. Like, he wanted, yeah. Which, I'm shocked he wasn't even arrested, was he?
I don't believe so.
Because that's borderline, that's assault.
Oh, it's definitely assault.
That should be an arrest. Because you're trying to choke a man to death. Allegedly to death. But over this course of just what's been going on, and the draft and what the Lakers are offering the Pelicans have been quote unquote underwhelming by some people. They've offered basically what we've all expected, their rookies and a first round draft pick, but it sounds like the Pelicans want a second first round draft pick. And if you're the Lakers, do you agree to that? And giving up those rookies they offered plus 2 first-round draft picks instead of 1?
If I'm the Lakers, I do everything I can to acquire Anthony Davis before the trade deadline.
They don't have much time left.
Everything is on the table. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, it just seemed like from reports...
That first offer that they sent the Pelicans, it was terrible. They sent... it was Rondo, Beasley... Kuzma and Lonzo Ball, I believe it was.
Yeah, I as soon as I saw Rondo and Beasley's name in there, I'm like, really?
Yeah, nobody wants those players. You don't sign them to one-year contracts and then try and trade them.
And getting rid of Kuzma is the right choice in this trade because that's enough flattering offer as well as Ball. But you also got to get rid of Zubac, and you probably have to get rid of Hart or anyone else for that matter. I can't. Is there someone? Oh, I missed. Who'd I miss? I missed one person. I said Hart,
they gotta
Zubac,
go Ingram.
Brandon Ingram. That's right. And
I think it starts with Ingram, Alonzo, Kuzma, and I would ask for 2 first-round picks.
Would you put Zubac in there?
I don't know. Maybe
he's been having a pretty decent season, all things considered. Hell, just add Ingram to it. Why not? Just put them all.
If they do that trade, which they could, the Pelicans would also have to waive some players, or they'd have to do another trade or something because they'd have way too many players.
They would need a 3-team trade.
Yeah, probably.
Probably, if I had to guess who would be interested in that, I'm thinking the Bulls or some low-ranked team of that nature. But I could be wrong on that as well.
The Celtics dominated the Thunder yesterday. There was good basketball this weekend. We talked about it, but I am glad I watched some of these basketball games because of how poor the Super Bowl ended up being.
Yeah. Celtics beat the Thunder 134-129. Yes, you're right. The Super Bowl kind of overshadowed all this, understandably so.
Raptors dominated the Clippers, too.
Yeah. But just real quick, going back to Thunder and Celtics, Paul George is really putting his work in for MVP candidacy with a 37-point game he had, as well as a block and a steal to add to his Defensive Player of the Year award credentials. Kyrie had a double-double with 30 and 11, and he's been saying him and LeBron are in a, quote, good place right now. That was a recent quote by him. And then, of course, Westbrook with a triple-double himself, 22, 12, and 16. No surprises there. But there wasn't enough as the Celtics managed to win this game, who are still fighting to be one of the top contenders in the East. But speaking of their Eastern competitors, like you said, the Raptors beat the Clippers 121-103 in a very convincing win. And this just seems like the Raptors are back on track of being top elite team in this league.
I mean, yeah, I still think they're the team to beat in the East. Honestly, tomorrow
even
night,
even with the loss to the
Bucks.
Okay. Bucks.
Tomorrow night, Raptors are at the 76ers, so that's going to be an interesting game. 76ers coming off their loss to Sacramento, but they did beat the Warriors last week. That was a really good win for the 76ers, so it's another tough game for them. Coming off a loss to Sacramento off their road trip, they're going to host Kawhi Leonard. That should be a fun game.
Yeah, it's one of the games to look at, absolutely. And that is tomorrow, like you said. And it's going to be interesting. And you know what I'm really interested in is the Cavs and Celtics game, just based off the fact that, isn't that in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, but why is that exciting?
Well, I'm honestly looking forward more to how the fans react to Kyrie after all this talk with LeBron, because he left because of LeBron. Now he wants to be back with LeBron in L.A., because I said this.
Does he want to get back with LeBron?
It says he sounds like he does. That's the rumors.
I don't know. I mean, I know that he reached out to him, right?
And he said he wouldn't mind doing it again. So it sounds like there might be a push for that. Who knows? But over the course of that, I heard it seems like that. If I was a Celtics fan, I'd be a little angry because why didn't you figure this out sooner? Why weren't you staying? Because Kyrie doesn't leave. Arguably, LeBron doesn't leave.
Yep. Yeah. Probably not.
So that's why I say maybe the Cleveland fans are kind of resenting Kyrie even more than they did already.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's our show today.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And we'll tune in.
Show up tomorrow.
Yeah, because we'll have, hopefully, more news of the NBA. Maybe even more news of NFL stuff. That's not how bad the Super Bowl was. So we will find that out tomorrow. And as always, I'm Jeff Malinoff, and that's Marsuza, and we will see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.